All right, so I had to go digging for this. This is old. So even though it's old, I feel like this is somewhat of a idea they're talking about. Let's actually just go through this so we can hear what's going on.
The gist is, I think the UGC is awesome. I still think we need structure around it to give players more incentive to want to do it and
Yes,
to just funnel players back
first in
into it.
place.
So the idea is, it's similar to what I had this idea before with Hall of Fame athletes. Um, but it's based around the narrative. The idea is there's this evil AI Ultramind thingy, and it is ravaging the cyberspace or whatever the reason that we don't like it. Is that so? Anyway, that doesn't matter. But what matters is each episode or season or whatever structure we want, however long we want them to last, each season the Ultramind is threatening, all of cyberspace or whatever, and the players have to team up to take it down. It's kind of like that group goal thing that you had, where it's like score 500,000 points and we unlock the next node. Except instead, it's you have to take down this Ultramind, and you can't do it. And the licensed athletes can't do it on their own because they're living in its world, right? So that's where the splicer comes in. They're like, we need your help to defeat this evil, but we can't do it. It's literally against our programming, like one of Asimov's laws or whatever. So you need to splice together these athletes using their DNA and then challenge it. And now the way you challenge it basically is just by playing. So you play in other people's home courts, you play, in other people's rule sets, whatever. And just like at the end of a match, you might get, you'll have your 3-point average and your blocks or whatever your stats. You'll also have like the damage that you did to Ultramind just from playing. And the idea is that at the end of a season, the athletes that contributed the most damage, the 3 athletes or however many athletes we want to do, we can really do however many we want, they become Hall of Fame athletes. They're canonized. So that means that other players, they're like stock athletes. They're BitFry Players Association athletes, right? So all players can now unlock them, and they're like part of the story, and they're part of the history of the game. So that was like, I took that idea from the tournament thing that we were talking about before that you didn't really like, but because I think that aspect of it is really compelling. It's like, why should I go do all these cool UGC things? Well, because if you're good enough, your athletes, and you're good enough, and like you manage to extend their lifespan, right? Like, because we said that they're gonna have a lifespan, then those athletes will become canon. Okay.
Okay, I will stop that there for a second. So what I'm getting is we're gonna be making our own characters, right? Then they're gonna have, they said licensed characters. I'm guessing is their characters they have already built into their game. So they have characters that they're being attacked by an enemy, and we have to play basketball, kind of like the Monstars, with Space Jam. The Space Jam, the Monstars came and stole their powers. That's probably what's happening right now. The powers got stolen, something like that, right? So now we're using this splicer thing to make up characters out of our own. Now I don't know how they get better, but it looks like there's a lifespan of the character. Maybe by like the end of a season, you can't use the same character in a season, but hopefully you can use that character outside of a season. I'm adding my own little twist to it. Forgive me. And it seems like, okay, as you're playing games, you'll do damage while scoring points. They said there was a leaderboard, average 3-pointer, average blocks. So I'm assuming anything being done to the enemy, like again, I know it's basketball, but it's the enemy. So as you steal from the enemy, you do damage. You block the enemy, you do damage. You score on the enemy, you do damage. That seems cool. I'm with that. And it said whoever's like on top of the leaderboards for XYZ, maybe they said 3. So I guess they was looking for like, an actual team. But I would break it even further to say maybe I don't know how many players are playing, but maybe like top 5 to top 10 of scorers. I mean players who was able to score points get blocks, rebound. Because rebound is hard. I'm not gonna lie, rebound is hard in the game. I hope it get easier at some point, but right now it's hard. And from whoever is on the leaderboard, their character become part of, the community so players can pick up those characters and play. Now, I don't know if they have the exact stats or anything. I don't know. I'm not there yet. Because, we don't have the game yet. I like this idea. I like this idea that we're coming together as a community to play against, this enemy. Now, again, I'm not saying I'm against tournaments, but I would like that. To have PvP, you have PvE, maybe people just want to play single play. This is great. Let's keep on listening to this.
Okay. So that's the first part. And then the second part is, okay, so it's like, if you like the athlete splicer and you're working with athletes, it's like, okay, if I'm good enough, I can make my imprint on this game forever, right? Cool.
Yeah, Hall of Fame.
Now, we still have the other two pieces of UGC, right? We have the
UGC
courts and the modes. I'm considering those separate. I know that you sort of conflate them sometimes, or maybe it's me who conflates them. I forget, honestly, but
courts
so
you have two different.
You have the mode editor and the court editor. Well, you can do the exact same thing with the modes and the courts.
Okay.
Each season, based on how many players are playing in your court or how many players are playing your mode, you are accruing ultramind damage. Like, you are contributing just because players are playing with your court or playing with your mode.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay.
So then it's the player whose court contributed the most damage. Well, that court becomes a Hall of Fame court and is now something that players can just use or unlock or buy or whatever. But, like, it's part of the Ultimate Rivals, or, the Infinite Victory story.
The story.
And same thing with the modes. The more that players play the modes, my mode, if my mode gets the most plays, it contributes the most ultramind damage for the mode, and my mode becomes a Hall of Fame mode. So other players get to play. You see where this is going, right?
Yep.
So then the last part, and I think that this is just an added bonus. It doesn't have to be in, right? Just like all the NFT stuff we're talking about. Well, if those things are NFTs, then those players who created them, the ones that become Hall of Fame, then they can get royalties on players transacting on those athletes, the Hall of Fame athletes, transacting on the Hall of Fame environments, courts, and transacting on the Hall of Fame modes. So I think where it all the reason I think it all makes sense, and the reason I think it's actually like a really kind of brilliant breakthrough, is because now, the question is, okay, like, my player, that has precedence, I think UGC as a concept has precedence, but the reality is, and I know I sound like JV, Jesus, the reality is that you still, like, the more reason players have to engage with these things, the more they're going to engage with them.
Right.
And so if you tie it all back into this narrative, and it could be a rolling narrative, it could happen 4 times a year, twice a year, whatever, it's basically a collective goal to defeat this evil thing. And, just like any kind of soap opera or whatever, it can come back every year, better and badder and stronger, whatever. It can come back every episode. Like, oh no, we killed it, but 3 more sprouted from it, right? But now there's an incentive on each piece of UGC, like each of the 3 pillars of UGC. There's an incentive that causes players to want to actually get more invested in it and actually want to experiment with the tools outside of their own creativity, which, by the way, is still a really strong driver. Obviously, I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Player choice, player creativity. But just adding these few little pieces of structure to it, I think, is really like the bow that ties the whole thing together.
Okay. So, point blank, they're trying to make it so we have more reason to play the game. I'm with that. We should have plenty of reasons to play this game. Does not mean insult if it comes out that way. They're trying to make the incentives, whether you're playing in a season, PvE, PvP, tournaments. Supposedly that's a bad idea. I would say like mini tournaments would never be a bad idea. I don't know if you want to host it directly, but like a game mode for tournaments. I think that's a great idea. Why? Because as you get further into the tournaments, it could be you accumulating more damage overall. So as you pass the first round, you go from normal damage to ×2 damage. You get to the second round, now you got ×3 damage. And, you keep having to multiply like that. So, maybe not, because then it gives the best in slot is to do tournaments now. Maybe that's not a good idea. But just other things you can do besides this one thing, because I like PvP. I don't mind PvE, but I'm not going to play basketball against bots all the time, right? And there's going to be other players like me. But there's going to be some, that are looking for the NFT who may not want to play against other players because they're losing on the NFTs. So instead, they're trying to play against bots. Be a part of the community to be able to just do damage to the seasonal enemy or the seasonal enemies. I don't know. But I think it should be an ongoing thing. That's great. I don't know. I just feel like you should try to encourage players to do PvP somehow, because if not, if it's the same value, they'll just go for the quickest thing and they'll probably just do PvE because they know they can win. But if you have some rewards on the PvP, more players are willing to do that too. Hey, I'm not a designer on this, but I like the idea. The more the merrier. I really like to make a player and you can get other players in the future. I don't know how that's gonna work. I'm willing to see it. But yeah, hopefully y'all have an idea what you like. Tell me what you like to see. Till then, it's your homie B Tactics. Thank you for watching the video. Like and subscribing, because you can put that subscribe button that's right over here. And don't forget, you can watch the videos over here. I want to see you in there too, all right? You enjoy yourself.